Natural You listeners, it's finally here, the end of our highlight series. This is the final episode, number 8 from seasons 1 and 2. This episode, we're going to have 3 wise men give us insights into shamanism, trusting, and the sacred. Enjoy. Arno Burnier is a well-known leader and visionary in the natural health arena. He lectures all around the world. He's recently published a book called The Cafe of Life and the Mosquito Principle.
Indeed, through my life journey, I've had a significant amount of wounds and trauma. But we can use a wound and a trauma as something to pity yourself, to feel a victim to, and so on and so forth. But in reality, every single trauma that we have had, every single wound that we have had is a gift. We can turn it into a gift. And the gift is to increase our understanding of as a human being. The gift is to increase our compassion. So basically to turn wounds and trauma into gift, and actually the journey of healing from them comes from not only having forgiveness for ourselves, forgiveness for the perpetrator, but also to transcend to the next level, which is to have gratitude for the perpetrator. And that's very tough for some people to make that last step. But it is a step that once it's made, there is enormous freedom, enormous letting go of these burdens, this baggage that we carry. So then when we have made that step, indeed, we discover, this trauma, this wound, this assault, this insult, this violation, whatever it is a gift.
How do you go about really opening yourself to opportunity, to what the universe can give you? Because I feel that's something that you've been able to do, which I perhaps feel restricted, and others maybe too. We want to experience that, but we perhaps hold back a little bit or aren't fully able to release.
So years ago, I read a book by Fred Barge called Chiropractic, Life Without Fear. And I thought, chiropractic is not life without fear. Chiropractic is life in trust of universal intelligence, in trust of innate intelligence, the inborn intelligence that every human being is born with, in trust of the power of life force. So when early on I made that distinction for myself, I decided I'm going to trust life. Now, being open doesn't mean that you're sitting there in your chair and say, I'm going to open a practice. I'm going to serve humanity. And you sit in your chair. There is something as being active, but in that activity to still be passive, which means you're active in passivity and you are passive in activity. I always relate to practice with sports. You look at professional athletes, it's not like they go like, I'm pretty good at basketball. I'm just going to show up on the court and it's going to be okay. I'll be in the flow. No, they train endlessly so that suddenly when they enter the game, they can be completely out of the way and enter the flow of the game rather than working the game. It's the same thing in practice. So I think in public speaking, for example, to go back to that example, is to have preparation, to have talking points, to have a message, to have a vision is important. But then can you let go of that, which is what an athlete does when it enters a court for a professional game? They let go of all of that training and all that preparation, and now they go into the game. And you will hear athletes say, it's amazing. The game was playing through me. In practice, you will hear chiropractor, I am not doing it. I'm an instrument of spirit, of the divine, of my soul working through me. Where at other times I'll say, that was a tough day. I was trying to figure it out. I was all in my head. I wasn't in my senses. I wasn't in my heart. I was all in my head trying to figure it out. And it was hell. The biggest factor beyond all of that is to nurture and articulate the heart muscle so that you can be out of your head into your heart and in a totally loving space.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
If you can approach every single one of your client, your patient, your practice member, whatever you want to call them, if you can approach them as if they were the most precious human being, your own newborn baby, and approach them with that much love, that much care, that much tenderness, and then also that much honoring, to honor their being, to honor their neurospinal system, to honor the adjustments that's being delivered. Because as you know, every adjustment is going to be different because every person is different.
Kris Peterson is going to share his knowledge of Druidry. Listen up to hear about the parallels between Native American and Celtic shamanism.
Which led me to going up to Camp Hill, which was one of these other communities further north in Scotland. And, you know, it's all centered around, you know, the telling stories, therapeutic and holistic crafts. So there's various workshops that folk would go through. I did some trainings with in both Native American shamanism and also what would be called Celtic shamanism, which is essentially centered around just more sort of more UK based teachings.
And how and obviously, you know, Native American is a very different nature and, you know, animals and plants to here in the UK. How were you able to, what do you see as the differences there, and how do you blend those, how do you see those working together?
There isn't, I don't see that there is a difference, you know. It's all transferable. I've actually found complete parallels from early beliefs here to teachings and beliefs from the Native American path.
So different worlds.
So whilst they're totally separated and literally worlds apart, you know, there are these similarities, and I think to me, you know, a huge essence of what shamanism. I don't even like calling it that because I think that's, you know, it's a very difficult thing to put in a box for me. It's all about how everything is interconnected, essentially.
So shamanism is,
and it's amazing as well because
so shamanism is the interconnection of all things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I would see it. And you know, it's that was how the shaman would see things, and then shamanism would be how to learn to be in that world and function from that space. That Scotland, geologically, as a rock, if you like, was once part of the Americas.
Wow, I didn't think of that.
And it broke off and ended up floating over. You know, the Caledonian Mountains, the main mountains in the Highlands of Scotland, are the same geological mountains as the Appalachian Mountain.
I didn't think of that, but that's right there. You know, it's all been mapped.
Yep.
So the terrain has linked the people, and so the terrain speaks to us, and the land speaks to us, and it speaks the same language, and the two different peoples are hearing the same stories from the land.
100%. Yeah. We don't have the indigenous teachings. There's fragments and splinters and glimpses, and as I'll hopefully divulge a little bit in this, be able to give your listeners a better picture to that. But it's essentially, you know, what I would say, it's a form of shamanism. It's all based on natural law, our connection with nature and the cosmos, the animals, the earth, the elements, the minerals, you know, the planets, the stars in the sky, the plants. It's all very much one and the same in that, you know. The Native Americans are famous for saying a rock is a living thing, and that is a very animistic thing. You know, animism is like animation. You know, it's really that perspective that every natural thing from the natural world is living.
did the celestial bodies have a role, or do they still have a role in Druidry?
Yeah, I'm sure they did, and I'm sure they do in this animistic idea again that that nature doesn't end here on Earth. Of course, they were under the sky just like we are, and so the sky itself and all the bodies within the sky were part of all of it, and massively integral. And just like many other ancient traditions, I'm sure their creation myths, etc., were no doubt connected to constellations or
Kris,
or such like.
I really love that. Nature does not end here on Earth. And it's like, we're so fascinated with our planet. It's like, we're all like, save the planet. No, this planet probably doesn't need saving. Humanity might need saving, but and even then it's all like nature is here. It's this planet, and so I just love that. I think nature does not end here on Earth. Dr. Tom Garcia. He is a shaman and wisdom keeper living in the mountains of Durango, Colorado. Tom has the ability to create safe, sacred spaces that allow people to reclaim their true voice and with it the memory of who they are and why they are here.
A really dear friend of mine, my wife and I took care of him in the last 18 months of his life. And he lived here in our home, and our kids were part of it. They were all much younger then. We have 4 children. And his passing, tending to him to the end, and seeing him off at the precipice, something completely unexpected happened for me, and it just broke me open in a way I could have never predicted. And I started going to the woods in the morning before sunrise and in the evening at sunset, and I'd often stay out all night. And I connected with fire and the earth, and a ceremony came to me and a voice came to me. The ceremony came through me, and I just stayed with it. I say there's no religion at the fire. It's just a practical matter of connecting deeply, elementally, on the earth, under the open sky, with the fire, which is a dynamic, transformative, transmuting element. We take trees which have absorbed sunlight, we put them in the fire, and the sunlight is released. It's like magic, in a manner of speaking. And so when we bring people out on the land, I know you experience this in your work also. When you take chiropractors out into the wilderness, most of our work is done because nature has an effect that's powerful and undeniable. Every place is sacred if we make it so. We give it all the meaning that it has for us, and that sanctifies the place.
So is it our state? Is it what we bring? Is it the things that we do to make something sacred? Or is it just sacred by being on the earth? Or, I looked in some of your work and you mentioned sacred ceremony. So what makes a ground sacred, or what makes a ceremony sacred?
Well, it's really all of the above. It's intention, of course, intention, the intention that I bring to what I do. And it has occurred over time. As these pieces were coming to me over time, all I knew was it felt right to burn sage and to offer tobacco and to have sweetgrass. And then as more elements came into the ceremony, the words that I use when I open the circle and the prayer that I offer when I offer a prayer, there is not a word that is wasted. And every part of what I do has meaning and significance. And if I were to be asked, I could talk about that in more detail, which is to say, everything is sacred, and we bring all the meaning that it has for us. We give it meaning. This is what I've learned. There is a wisdom that's available to us, that's always available when we listen for it. And then we can find evidence or validation or confirmation in spiritual books and other kinds of material that confirms what we've heard in our quiet time. I like to call it quiet time. Whether you're at the fire or sitting in your meditation room or a corner in your house, it's all the same. Make a circle and put a fire in it. I'll often say that to people. You don't know what to do. you feel lost, you have questions that don't have answers, make a circle and put a fire in it. Whether you light a candle and you're in the circle of light that a candle casts, or you go outside and you delineate a circle in your space, however big or small, and make a small fire in a can or a brazier or whatever like that, make a circle and put a fire in it. And that's the beginnings of your ceremony. I call my work Reclaim the Sacred. And it can sound even to my own ears a bit grandiose, like, well, what does that mean? And yet that's what I'm called to call what I do, reclaim the sacred. And everywhere I turn in my work with people and in my own ceremonial space, it's truly that, reclaiming, taking back what's sacred, calling it, instead of waiting for someone else to tell me what's sacred. Often we turn that over to the church or the clergy, to do ceremony, to offer a blessing, you need to be ordained in some particular manner to officiate at a birth or a wedding or a death. And yet it's integral to who we are, that we have the capacity for that, and to reclaim that capacity to simply bless, as an example, to bless myself and to bless my world. Who's going to do that for me if I don't do that for myself and my family?
And that concludes the highlights of season 1 and 2. In the show notes, you'll find link to Arno Burnier's book, The Cafe of Life and a Mosquito Principle. You'll also find a link to Kris's Eden Trails, which is a tour of sacred sites around Edinburgh and the Scottish borders. And then Tom's website, which has links to his fire ceremony and his work with psychedelics. Have a look at those, check them out, reach out to them. And very shortly, we will be starting Series 3. So look out for that. Bye for now.